Hey folks, how's everyone going out there in Internet Landia? Coach Patrick here, Endurance Nation, back with another weekly Wednesday 15-minute video. Every Wednesday I sit down here, Facebook Live, give you some insights and information from what we've gleaned coaching athletes since 2007, and share out some of the key lessons learned here from our community. As a reminder, Endurance Nation is not your average coaching group. We do team coaching, which means everyone inside the team is hands-on involved, not only in their own training, but also in cultivating and educating other members and learning from them as well. It's this sort of positive, adding some game where the more that we give, the more that we get, and really breaks the traditional rules of what a coaching relationship is, which is I have a question, I'm paying a really smart person to give me an answer, I want an answer. That's what Google is for. You don't need to pay someone to do it, just go get coached by Google. Instead, inside the team here, we learn from our experiences, we share information, we create opportunities for growth. We use our training plans, resources, and videos like this to do just that. So this week, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the warm-up habit. And this has been an interesting journey for me personally. So I'm going to share out my warm-up habit story, and then also give you 3 different perspectives on the value of warm-up and what it means for you. So I hope you find it useful. After this call, I'll be jumping over to our office hours inside the team. If you want to be a part of that, join the community. You can do that at endurancenation.us/join, where you can come in, do the office hours, meet the team, and start putting your training on the fast track. So my personal warm-up story, when I first started endurance sports back before you probably were born, warm-ups were like whatever, because I was 24, 25 at the time, and who needs to warm up? Like, I'll just go outside and go. In fact, also at the time, who needs to really fuel properly? Who needs to sleep? Who needs to stretch? Lots of other things. And over time, basically, I began to realize that my aspirations for performance, but my ability to dedicate time to create opportunities for performance were at odds with one another. In other words, I was having less and less time to do the training I wanted, but I would always do the training. So if I had a workout that was, say, an hour, and there was a 15-minute warm-up, and there was a 40-minute main set, and then a 5-minute cool down, I could do the workout in 40 minutes. I would just know I could just jam in that workout. Who needs to warm up? I'll just literally go outside my door, hit go on my watch, and just start sprinting and get my workout done. Did I get the workout done? I did. Was it good? No, it wasn't. And for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, because I was really highly prone to injury because I wasn't warmed up. I just started going. I was sitting in a chair. I was doing something else. I also didn't get to take advantage of any of that acclimation time. Like, did I pick the right clothes for today? More than once, caught out with the wrong clothing, freezing cold, super hot. Because of my poor planning and logistics. And then ultimately, which I'll be talking more about today, I just left performance on the table because I wasn't warmed up and ready for my workout. I was looking at warm-ups from a specific lens, which was, can I do the work I want to do right now? And since I could do that without having to warm up, I said this warm-up idea is just a pile of junk. I can remove it. I'll save time, right? It's like saying, let's just remove appetizers from dinner. We'll just go straight to dinner. But it turns out that what I had done effectively by doing that was reduce the amount of time I had inside my workouts to be training at peak performance. And over my career, I have learned that the more opportunities and the longer those opportunities can be for training at your peak, whether it's from a skill perspective or a strength perspective, aerobic perspective, whatever it may be, the better you will be overall. The cumulative amount of time that we have in this area is really key. So in many ways, a warm-up is not just get my heart rate going, get out of my neighborhood, shake things loose. A warm-up is also physically and mentally priming yourself for the session that's to come. And I think it's really important to reframe the concept of a warm-up in that space so you can be successful, right? Because successful sport, especially from endurance sports, which is typically that same motion repeated over and over and over again, there's an opportunity where you can make a small change and have a big outcome because it cascades downstream. If you don't ever put yourself in a position to be able to make that small change, you'll never reap the following benefits that come down the chain. Instead, you'll be stuck in this front area, simply like young Coach Patrick, before I was Coach Patrick, simply just doing more work, putting in more effort, because that was the only lever that I could pull to make myself better, because I wasn't doing anything else related to the skill side, related to the engagement side, the mindful side, and also just being ready physically to do my session. Okay. So when we think about warming up, there's a couple options I want you to consider. And also, please remember, comments are open. If you've got questions, comments, feedback, just put it in the chat box. It'll show up here. I'm happy to dive in and have a little chat conversation with you as well. So number one, from a warm-up perspective, there's the functional side. Like, are you ready to work out? So we're going to use running as a simple example. So from a running warm-up perspective, what we recommend using is a great video called 7-Way Hips. You can look up Google 7-Way Hips. Ryan Flaherty, I think Ryan is the name of the gentleman who does it. And it's a fantastic dynamic warm-up that you can do in your house. You just basically get all dressed for your run. You can get down on the floor, carpet, yoga mat, whatever, and do this exercise. It takes a total about 5 to 6 minutes. But your glutes, your hips are on fire. They're totally warmed up and ready to go in terms of being dynamically ready for the workout. That is what I would call not necessarily it's the warm-up part of that I would call sort of the primer, which is basically priming your body for the workout. I'm priming it. I'm activating the muscles that I'm going to be using during the session, before the session. It's most effective in running. It can also be effective in swimming, more of the skill-related independent chain movement, right? Whereas when you're on a bicycle and the feet are going around on a pedal, the glutes are going to fire, the quads are going to fire, the hamstrings are going to fire. They're not really going to miss out so much because it's a closed chain activity. So the primer piece of the warm-up is really important. And especially when it comes to running, for swimming as well, you may do something on dry land before you get in the water that make a big difference. Whether it's a subtle stretch routine that you see athletes doing on the side of the deck, they're not just moving around like peacocks, pruning and stretching for everyone's viewing pleasure, although that does happen. Not here, but people do that as well. But really warming up and making sure that you've sort of stretched out your back, your shoulders, activated those lats. If you've got swim cords, those are a great thing to use on the side of the pool or before you get in the water. Again, just to warm up, dynamically activate those muscles, prime them effectively to be ready, right? Okay, that's the prime session of the warm up. The next session of the warm up is that mental side for me, which is the engagement. And this is something that I've also come to appreciate over time, which is that even though I'm showing up to do a run that I've done, weekly, let's say on Wednesdays, I do a steady run on hills where I like to push the hills on the upside and work on my cadence on the downside. So that's been my Wednesday standby workout. I'm 12 weeks going. Here I am Wednesday on my hill session. It's easy to kind of be check out on this piece, but really when it comes down to it, the quality of that session is dependent upon my ability to be ready. And every time I show up, I'm a different version of me, right? So I've done something differently on Tuesday and maybe in a different place from Tuesday. Maybe I got my vaccine shot on Monday. Maybe I'm feeling awesome. Maybe I've had 4 cups of coffee today, which is not impossible. And so as a result, when I start my workout, the second phase of that warm-up process is the engagement, right? Consider it, an easy example will be getting into your car. Right, so when you get into your car and you have to orient yourself, right? Turn it on, get the heat going, get the radio out. So who left the radio on? Great, I have no gas. Thanks, kids. Whatever it is you're doing, get into that process. You are now going to make decisions about your workout based off of what's happening in this period of time, right? So this is the acclimation phase. We have the primer. You ready? Now we have the acclimation phase of your warm-up. In this acclimation phase, we're saying, where am I, sort of, and how am I going to do going forward, okay? And so in many cases, if we're going back to that running example, this is that, 1 mile, maybe 2 mile, easy part of the run that kind of builds up, right? It goes from super easy, stretch the legs, get moving to kind of building up the pace, getting into that space. So we're easing into it. How do my legs feel? How do my calves feel? I've been having some issues with my Achilles. Is that happy today? Not happy today? Where am I at? What's the weather like? Super windy from the north, I'm headed east, or whatever that may be. That acclimation phase is really important because we're getting biofeedback based on where we're at right now, which is very important. Your workout may say, do 2 by 1 mile of peak performance or high-end zone 4 threshold workout. But in this acclimation period, you may see that your heart rate is already higher than normal, or you're already fatigued, or you're already feeling something. At this point in time, this is your decision point where you can say, this is not a good idea. Like I want to do this workout. I don't feel good about this workout. I'm going to make an audible. I'm going to change something here differently. So I may go on to do more of a steady run than not doing something. Maybe I'll work in some strides at the end, hoping I'm warmed up, for example. Or maybe I'm all systems go, and this is awesome. Maybe instead of just doing 2 by 1 mile, I might even see if I've got room for a third because I kind of took yesterday light, right? So in this acclimation phase, this is where we're saying I'm making active decisions about how I'm going to proceed based off of how I feel. That is the second of our 3 phases in the warm-up. Then the third phase of our warm-up is actually that part of it where we get ready for the main set. Inside Endurance Nation, every workout has a main set, the target, the needle that you're trying to move. And so in this case, for this athlete in this run workout, it's 2 by 1 mile. So I need to be physically ready to run 2 by 1 mile. That, and from running perspective, that's a heart rate effort. And it's also a turnover effort, right? Because running at speed typically increases your cadence higher than what your normal cadence would be. So having some stride sessions in there to kind of get loose, some shorter building bursts to kind of get the legs loose, get the heart rate up a little bit, super important. If you're doing something like 2 by 1 mile and you have 45 minutes, pushing those 2 by 1 miles, into like after the 25-minute mark. So you've had time to ease into things in those first 10, 15 minutes of the acclimation, and then do 10 minutes of work associated with getting the muscles ready, getting the heart rate up, being ready to do that work, super important. And you got plenty of time to do, 2, 10-minute miles each with some recoveries afterwards and get going. And so that's the actual execution phase of your warm-up, right? So we do the primer, acclimation, execution phase of your warm-up. So I know I've just gone ahead and made your regular warm-up so much more complicated than it needed to be, but it is really super important. So the way that I recommend you get into the process of having such a detailed level of warm-up is to really focus in on your key sessions. If you've got a week of workouts, you could have anywhere from 6 to 10 or 12 workouts. They're all important in the grand scheme of things in terms of training stress and so on, but they don't all hold the same level of importance within each discipline or within your discipline. There's a workout that's the most important workout of the week. Is it the long run? Well, if you're building to a race, it probably is. Is it the speed run? Well, if you're setting some foundational speed in place, maybe it is. Or you're doing a shorter race, maybe it is, right? Is it the strides run, which is sort of like you need to recover? This is a recovery week, then maybe that's it. Start off with that key workout. So take a look at your calendar. If you've got it printed out because you're super old school, that's awesome. And identify the key workouts. Pick 2 or 3 for the week. Just circle them up. Which are the key ones? Those are the days you're going to start out by saying, all right, I'm going to back out the time. I've got an hour for this workout. I'm going to budget an hour and a half so I can do the extra work that I need. Very easy for you to do with those early morning sessions when there's nothing bumping up against the front of that workout. Possible to do for the later in the day sessions, but it does push that workout later, which could prove to be somewhat detrimental for you. I prefer to do it for my morning workouts. I can use my session this morning, for example. Couple days away, I'm in a recovery week, coming back to the bike. Definitely want to get my body ready for this session. So I spend 20, 30 minutes doing core exercises, stretching out, rolling my quads, stretching my hips, etc. Just getting ready for the workout that I was going to do today as sort of that primer phase, like where am I at? And also that acclimation, how am I doing, right? I've had a couple days away from the bike, did a lot of hiking, like my knees, maybe not so happy with some of those boulders I was jumping off of. So trying to be mindful of all of that. This process allows me to get back into it. And it's something that I can use strategically. By no means am I saying do it all the time. I'm not like your evil physical therapist who always adds 1 extra session per visit when at the end of the day you're doing enough work like you have a full-time job. That's kind of a really key part. Oh, we got some questions coming in now, which is awesome. Vic says, hey, my group never warms up. This sounds very familiar to me. Socially, warm-ups not generally accepted, possibly seen, much like using an indicator when you go to turn, as a sign of weakness. They go hair on fire from the start. That is my favorite description ever of a non-warm-up ride, Vic. What can I do before a group rides to warm up? Do I need to ride before the ride? This is a great question, and I love it. Okay, so there's a couple key things to think about here for Vic or for anyone else who struggles with this issue. When you are in a group dynamic setting where people just go from the outset, that's by design, right? So for them, that workout is the social dividing of the herd, right? Where they say, hey, we're gonna push a bunch of people out, and the people who make the cut are gonna be here for the session. That's a very typical I would say US based sort of like macho training style. If you were to take this elsewhere, go to Africa, look at the runners. Yeah, they do their warm up, but their warm up is they always start off slow. Like every workout is super slow. They're going to crush you by the end, but it's super slow. And even when they're doing their hard parts, they'll double back or loop around. So they can always regroup with people because they're trying to bring up that other cohort of people who are just not strong enough. Because if I can make them strong enough, guess what? They're going to push me harder, which makes me better, right? And we constantly iterate on that. The version we have now, much more short-sighted, much more like, hey, if we get rid of those 25 people, then it's just the 5 of us. We could do great. They could also just do their own ride and ride with 5 of them. So the question is, what do you do in a group ride when you have that kind of scenario? So you have a couple options. Ride before the ride. Could be hard, right? Like, and also logistically challenging. I know for you down in Texas, getting to a place where you want to ride can be difficult. And so I would say if you can't ride before the ride, which makes sense, sometimes you can ride like 5 minutes. Like, I'm just going to test my bike, go around and come back. Because usually some people are late. If that's not an option, then definitely making sure that you are ready to ride on your way out there, right? So if, for example, if you're sitting in a chair and you're working at a desk and you do that right till like 3 o'clock, and then the ride starts at 3:30, you got just enough time to like jump in your truck, throw the bike in the back and get there and go. Let's expand that window and say, you know what, I'm going to actually start at 2:30. I'm going to do my stretches. I'm going to get all ready to go, get my pre-workout nutrition in, all that stuff. Make sure that I'm fully amped right before I get there. The second phase of that will be in a group workout, use the group to your advantage, So what you want to do essentially is, if you're not a strong rider, believe it or not, you want to be towards the front of the group. It's natural to hang off the back, but go to the front. That means they have to go around you. And if you're in the front, you're sort of dictating the pace. And so if people do start coming around you and there's like 20 people in the ride and you've seen like 6 people go by, you might want to, at this point in time, start to pick it up and get on the back of the group. So you've dictated the terms of like, hey, you got 5 extra minutes of easy time at the beginning because you parked yourself close to the front. But now you've also got that group to follow as well, assuming that they're not like attacking on a steep incline or something like that. You can draft off the back of the group. Those are the 2 best options that I can give you for sure, sort of as an idea of how you can go ahead managing that. But when I'm talking before about sort of that prior version, no worries, Vic, the prior version of saying, hey, how do I get better at my own sessions? The piece that I sort of described before about sort of working through the 3 phases of your warm-up can be really, really helpful. On the group setting, it can be challenging, but again, think about those group sessions. Those are just 1 or 2 sessions a week. And so again, if we can sort of strategically prepare for those, that's helpful. I do find that as much as I was kind of sort of down on those types of workouts, they can really challenge you to push yourself harder than you would have thought possible. And oftentimes those workouts can help you reframe what your limits are and what's possible simply by being dynamically involved in that group. So again, thinking a little bit about our warm-up, I really recommend that athletes identify those key sessions on this calendar and they give themselves the full 3 phases of the workout, right? We have sort of that, the priming phase where we say, hey, I'm going to get the muscles ready that I'm going to do today. I'm going to get that done pre-session on the deck for the pool, in your house before the run, in the garage or wherever before you get on the bike. The priming session, get those key muscles ready, activated, ready to go, right? Just kind of limbering up, getting ready, getting loose. Can be something like a dynamic run warm-up or some other form of stretching movements, etc., that are critical for you. The second phase, acclimation. Are you ready today to do the work that you want to do today? In that warm-up phase we just talked about with Vic, it's very possible that you start doing your warm-up phase and you say, I feel terrible. There's a hair on fire group and I am bald, my friends. There's no way I'm going to this damn ride because I'm exhausted. I'm just not there 110%. In that case, we make our adjust. The acclimation phase is that judgment decision-making phase. And then finally, we have ourselves ready to go. This is the execution phase of our warm-up. In the execution phase, we're doing the specific work that's going to allow our body to operate that higher level, whether it's strides, whether it's warm-ups, whether it's, some steps up a hill, whether it's a couple hard strokes in the pool with some 50s before we do a couple 100 or 200 or 300 or 400 yard efforts as part of those sessions to kind of make sure we're full go, ready to go. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. A little bit long today. Sorry for the 18.5 minutes of talking. I definitely had my cup of coffee for today. I won't lie. If you have questions, comments, or feedback, you can always leave messages on the Facebook page. I'm kind of sort of diligent about getting back to you here. I do spend the majority of my time inside the Endurance Nation community, where I'll be heading in just 10 minutes for our weekly office hours, which we do on our live chat channel. If you're interested more about Endurance Nation or being part of our group, where we share all the information, resources, tips, etc., to make you a smarter, faster athlete, go ahead to endurancenation.us/join. Check us out there, and we'll see you on the inside. All right, have a fantastic week. I'll be back next week with another event. Until then, stay healthy, stay smart, be smart, and be fast. I'll see you guys.